The air inside the cafe felt clean in the way only expensive places pretend to be clean. Polished wood that smelled faintly of lemon oil, sugar that never spilled, espresso that hit the room like warm smoke. Outside, the late afternoon street noise of San Francisco kept moving, tires whispering over damp pavement, a cable car bell somewhere distant. A few voices rising and falling like birds. Inside, the sound was controlled, cups placed carefully, chairs sliding softly, people speaking with the casual confidence of those who believe the room belongs to them. At exactly 4:26 p.m., the door opened and a thin winter draft slid along the floor. Bruce Lee stepped in without hurry, like he'd already decided the pace of the world and the world had agreed to follow. 28 years old, 5 feet 7 inches tall, around 135 pounds, compact as a coiled spring, a dark turtleneck under a fitted jacket, simple trousers, clean shoes that look like they'd seen actual sidewalks, not just carpets. His hair sat neatly, not fashionable, just disciplined. His eyes moved once across the room, tables, faces, posture, energy, and then the movement stopped. He chose a small two-tot near the front, close enough to the window to watch the street, far enough to hear what mattered behind him. Most people didn't recognize him at first. Not in the way they would later, not like a billboard, not like a myth, but they noticed something else before they noticed the face. They noticed how he sat, straight but not rigid, relaxed but not loose, like a man who could turn stillness into motion without any warning. The chair didn't creak, the table didn't shake. Even the way his hands rested, one near the cup, one on the edge of the table, looked like a choice, not a habit. A hostess approached with a thin smile and a small notepad. She was maybe in her early 20s, blonde hair pinned up, lipstick carefully neutral. Her expression didn't say friendly. It said trained. "Hi there," she said, voice bright but hollow. "Can I help you?" Bruce returned the smile politely, not too wide. "Yes, a table for one. Just coffee is fine." Her eyes flicked over him again, quick. The flick wasn't curiosity, it was calculation. "We're actually pretty full," she said. Although 3 tables were empty within 5 steps of her. "Do you have a reservation?" "No," he said calmly. "I'll wait if needed." She held her smile in place like a mask someone had glued on. "It might be a long time." "I have time," he replied. The words were soft, but they landed with weight. A pause. She looked toward the counter where the manager stood. The manager wasn't young. Mid-40s, maybe. Tall. Broad in the shoulders. The kind of body that came from years of telling other people to carry things. He wore a crisp white shirt and a dark tie with the cafe's logo pinned like a badge. His jaw was set in a permanent shape of disapproval, as if the world was always doing something slightly wrong and he took it personally. The hostess leaned in and spoke to him in a low voice. The manager's eyes lifted, caught Bruce, and didn't drift away the way polite eyes do. They stayed. A few seconds passed where nothing moved but small normal things. Steam rising, a spoon turning in a cup, a woman laughing quietly. Then the manager walked over. His steps were confident and loud enough to announce themselves. Not stomping, but deliberate, like he believed footsteps were part of authority. He stopped at the edge of Bruce's table, not close enough to be intimate, not far enough to be respectful, just inside that invisible boundary people use when they want you to feel their presence. "Can I help you?" he asked. It was the same question as the hostess, but the tone made it different. The words weren't a welcome. They were a gate. Bruce looked up slowly. His expression didn't change. He didn't do the thing many people do, oversmile, apologize for existing, rush to make the other person comfortable. He simply looked at the man as if the man was a fact, not a threat. "I'd like coffee," Bruce said, "and a seat. I'm already seated." The manager's mouth twitched, not quite a smile, more like irritation pretending to be humor. "We have a policy," the manager said, "certain clientele." He stopped, and in that stop was the whole truth. He didn't want to say the word. He wanted Bruce to understand without needing him to say it. Bruce's eyes narrowed a fraction, almost imperceptible. "What policy is that?" The manager leaned forward slightly, voice lowering like he was doing Bruce a favor by speaking quietly. "We reserve service for regular customers. You understand?" Bruce let the silence sit. In that silence, other people began to notice the shape of what was happening. A man at a nearby table paused mid-sip. A couple near the window stopped talking. A waitress slowed down, tray held still in the air, as if time had snagged her sleeve. Bruce didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue like someone begging for fairness. He spoke the way a man speaks when he already knows what he deserves and is simply measuring whether the world is going to be decent today. "I don't understand," he said. "Explain it clearly." The manager's eyes hardened. "We don't serve Asians." There it was, a blunt sentence dropped like a plate meant to shatter. The room's air shifted, as if everyone inhaled at once and didn't exhale. Bruce held the manager's gaze. His face stayed calm, but something changed behind his eyes. An awareness sharpening, a quiet door closing. "Is that your policy?" Bruce asked, "or is that your preference?" The manager's nostrils flared. "It's the policy." Bruce nodded once, slow, as if he just confirmed a detail for his own records. "Then I like to speak to the owner." The manager's laugh came out short. "The owner isn't here? Then I'll wait," Bruce said. "You won't wait here," the manager replied. His voice rose just enough for people to hear. The performance was now public. He wanted witnesses. He wanted the room on his side. Bruce's gaze drifted slightly, not away from the manager, but around him, taking in the way the manager's shoulders squared, the way his hands hovered near his hips, the way he planted his feet. Bruce noticed it all, like a scientist watching an experiment. Then Bruce stood, not abruptly, smoothly. The chair barely moved. He rose to his full height, still shorter than the manager but somehow occupying more space. The manager's eyes flicked down and then back up, as if a tight was a scoreboard and he wanted to check it. "You heard me," the manager said. "You need to leave." Bruce breathed in through his nose, slow, controlled. The kind of breathing you see in a man who has been trained not to let his body betray his mind. "You're making a mistake," Bruce said. The manager's face tightened. "Don't threaten me." Bruce's head tilted slightly, like he was studying the word. That wasn't a threat. That was information. Now few people were fully watching, not staring openly, but their bodies angled, attention leaning in. The waitress with the tray lowered it to a counter. Someone near the back stood as if to get a better look and then froze. Realizing standing made them visible. The manager squared up, taking half a step closer, invading space. His voice got louder. "You people always want something. Always. This is not your place." There was a sting in the phrase that went beyond the words. It was the tone of ownership, the assumption of entitlement. Bruce's face remained still, but his shoulders relaxed even more, which looked wrong to anyone who didn't understand. Relaxation at the edge of conflict isn't weakness. It's readiness. He spoke again, quieter than before. The room leaned toward him without realizing it. "I'm going to give you one chance," Bruce said. "Speak to me like a human being." The manager scoffed. "Or what?" A long pause. Bruce didn't answer immediately. He looked at the manager's hands, then his eyes returned to the manager's face. "Or you'll learn," Bruce said, "that your power here is borrowed." The manager's lips peeled back. "Get out." He reached forward. Maybe to grab Bruce's arm, maybe to shove him, maybe just to assert dominance. In his head, it was probably simple. Big man removes small man. Room applauds silently, order restored. His fingers moved toward Bruce's sleeve, and then the world changed. Not with a dramatic scream, not with a crash. With speed, 6 seconds. The first second was the manager's hand extending, the air between them tightening like a rope. The second was Bruce's body shifting half an inch, barely a movement, like a thought becoming physical. The third was a sound, a sharp slap of flesh against wrist, quick and clean. The manager's hand didn't find Bruce's arm. It found empty space. The fourth was the manager's face changing, confusion sliding into it like cold water. The fifth was the manager's knee bending suddenly, not by choice. His balance, his proud, heavy, confident balance, was taken away as if someone had reached inside his body and switched something on. The sixth was silence. Not metaphorical silence, actual silence. The manager was on one knee, not because he was being polite, but because his body had been persuaded to obey physics. His right arm was pinned in a position that looked harmless to an untrained eye. No blood, no broken bones visible, but his face told the truth. His jaw was clenched. Sweat sprang up along his temple. His free hand hovered uselessly, afraid to touch his own trapped arm. His breath came out in short, involuntary bursts. Bruce stood beside him like a man holding a door open. Calm, controlled, one hand placed with precision, not force. His posture didn't say rage, it said mastery. People in the cafe stared now, fully. The performance had reversed. The manager tried to speak, but the first sound that came out was a strangled grunt, as if pride itself had caught in his throat. Bruce leaned in slightly, not close enough to intimidate, close enough to be heard. "I could hurt you," he said, voice almost gentle. "Right now, easily." The manager's eyes flashed with fear, then anger, then something else that he didn't want anyone to see. Let go," he forced out through clenched teeth. Bruce didn't release immediately. He held that moment the way a teacher holds a student's attention before the lesson. "Listen," Bruce said quietly, "I'm not here to win. I'm here to show you something you forgot. The manager's breathing hitched. Bruce loosened his grip just enough to let the manager feel the possibility of relief. Not a gift, a choice. Stand up, Bruce said. The manager tried. His legs shook. His face tightened as pain and humiliation collided. He looked around, and for the first time he saw the room not as his kingdom, but as a jury. People watched him, and in their eyes he saw the question he'd never had to answer before. How did you end up on your knee? He pushed himself upright, favoring the arm, trying to regain dignity with posture. He adjusted his tie with his uninjured hand, as if the tie could fix what everyone had just witnessed. Bruce stepped back, giving him space. That alone was a kind of mercy. The manager swallowed, voice rough. You assaulted me. Bruce nodded once. You tried to put your hand on me. I told you to leave. The manager snapped, but his voice lacked earlier certainty. It was thinner now. And you told me, Bruce replied, that I don't belong in a place that sells coffee. The manager's eyes flipped toward the hostess, toward the other staff, toward the door, as if looking for backup. But no one moved. Even the hostess looked pale, her notepad hanging limp at her side. A man at a nearby table, middle-aged, wearing a wool coat, newspaper folded neatly beside his cup, cleared his throat and spoke, hesitant but firm. He didn't do anything to you until you reached for him. The manager turned sharply. Mind your business. It became our business, the man replied, voice tightening. When you said what you said, the manager's face reddened. He was losing control of the room, and control was the only language he knew. Bruce didn't capitalize on it with insults. He didn't embarrass the manager further. He didn't smile. He simply asked, do you want to call the police? The manager blinked. That wasn't the script he expected. In his head, Bruce was supposed to run, or threaten, or explode, not offer the law like a neutral option. You think I'm afraid of the police? The manager barked. No, Bruce said. I think you're afraid of being seen. The words landed harder than any strike. The manager's lips parted, then closed. He glanced around again, and he realized the room had shifted. The room was watching him as a man, not as a manager. The uniform of authority had slipped. Under it, there was just a person with an ugly belief. Bruce stepped toward the counter, not to steal anything, not to prove dominance, but to remove the manager from the center of the story. He addressed the room in a calm, respectful voice. I don't want trouble, he said. I want coffee, and I want to sit like anyone else. No one clapped. This wasn't a movie. Real moments don't come with neat applause. But something happened anyway. A waitress, older than the others, maybe late 30s, hair pulled back, face lined with exhaustion, walked forward. Her hands were steady. She looked at Bruce, then at the manager, then back at Bruce. What would you like? She asked, voice clear. The manager spun toward her. No, she cut him off without raising her voice. I asked him what he would like. That simple sentence was rebellion disguised as service. Bruce's eyes softened slightly. Coffee, he said, black is fine. She nodded once, then turned and went to the machine. The manager stared, stunned. His staff was defying him. His room was leaving him. He leaned toward Bruce, voice shaking with contained fury. Who are you? Bruce looked at him for a long moment. He didn't say his name yet. Names can be weapons too. He simply said, I'm someone who learned that strength is not what you do when you're safe. The manager's face twisted. You think you're better than me? Bruce shook his head. No, I think you're hurt, and you learned to call that hurt power. The manager opened his mouth, then shut it. His eyes dropped for a fraction of a second, and in that fraction something human slipped through. Panic, maybe, or shame, or the memory of something he'd once been before bitterness became a personality. The coffee machine hissed and spat. The smell cut through the tension like a familiar friend. The waitress returned with the cup, placed it in front of Bruce. Her fingers lingered on the saucer just a moment longer than necessary, as if anchoring herself to the decision she'd made. She didn't smile. But her eyes carried a quiet apology for a world that kept forcing people into these moments. Bruce nodded in thanks. The manager stood stiffly, watching Bruce sit again, watching him lift the cup and take a slow sip as if the coffee mattered more than the conflict. That calm was infuriating. Calm is what bullies can't stand, because calm refuses to grant them importance. But the manager was rattled now. His arm still ached in a way that reminded him he could be controlled. His pride ached worse. He leaned closer, voice lower, more dangerous. You can't do that here. You can't just... Bruce set the cup down gently. You want to know what I did? The manager swallowed. His eyes flicked to Bruce's hands. I redirected you, Bruce said. I didn't break you. I didn't humiliate you. You did that yourself when you chose to treat someone as less than human. The manager's jaw worked, grinding anger into something else. You could have hurt me, he muttered. Bruce nodded. Yes, and you didn't. No risk. Why? Bruce's gaze moved to the window where the street was still moving, indifferent. Because I've been hurt before, he said. And I know what it makes you want to do. The manager's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? It makes you want to make someone smaller, Bruce said quietly, so you can feel bigger. A long silence stretched. The manager's shoulders dropped slightly, not in surrender, but in fatigue. For the first time, the sharpness in his face softened into something like confusion. He didn't know how to exist without superiority. A few minutes passed where the cafe attempted to return to normal. People resumed conversations, but their voices carried tension. Forks touched plates too loudly. Laughter sounded forced. The staff moved carefully, avoiding the manager's eyes, moving around him like water around a rock. Bruce drank his coffee slowly, not because he was trying to prove a point, but because he was present. He wasn't in a hurry to escape the moment. He wasn't frightened by discomfort. The manager hovered behind the counter for a while, pretending to check receipts, pretending to be busy, but his attention kept returning to Bruce, as if Bruce was a mirror he didn't want to look into and couldn't stop staring. Et si mong yen si sip et kanan ton bai. The honor arrived. He was a short man in a heavy coat, hair thinning, cheeks red from the cold outside. He walked in with the air of someone who expected problems to be small and solvable. The manager intercepted him immediately, speaking in quick, urgent whispers, gesturing toward Bruce. The owner's eyes widened slightly as he listened. Then he walked toward Bruce with cautious steps. Sir, the owner said, voice polite but strained, I'm told there was an incident. Bruce looked up. His expression stayed respectful. There was a refusal of service, he said, and an attempt to remove me. The owner glanced at the manager. The manager's face was rigid, trying to look righteous. The owner turned back. Do you want to file a complaint? Bruce paused, as if weighing something beyond the immediate. What I want, he said slowly, is for this place to decide what it is. The owner blinked. What do you mean? Bruce's voice remained calm, but his words sharpened. If your cafe sells coffee, then your cafe sells coffee. Not belonging, not permission, not superiority, just coffee. The owner swallowed. We don't. Bruce lifted a hand slightly, not aggressive, just stopping the automatic denial. You might not think you do, but you hire people who do. You empower them. You benefit from it until someone forces you to look at it. The manager stepped forward, voice strained. He attacked me. Bruce's gaze shifted to him. You reach for me? The owner looked between them. His face tightened with the recognition that the truth was not going to be hidden. A man from earlier, the one with the newspaper, spoke again. The manager said they don't serve Asians. The owner's eyes snapped toward the manager. You said what? The manager's mouth opened, then closed. His confidence was evaporating. You said that, the owner repeated louder now. The manager's eyes darted around. I was trying to keep order. The owner's face flushed, anger and fear mixing. Not fear of injustice, fear of consequences, fear of reputation, fear of what the city would do to him if this got out. Bruce watched the owner carefully. He'd seen this pattern before. People can hate you quietly until the cost becomes public. The owner's voice lowered. Sir, I apologize. That doesn't reflect our values. Bruce's eyes held his. Then prove it. The owner nodded quickly. Of course, your coffee is on the house. Anything you like. Bruce didn't smile. It's not about the coffee. The owner exhaled, like he was relieved and irritated at the same time. Then what do you want? Bruce leaned back slightly in the chair, eyes steady. I want him, he said, nodding toward the manager without turning his head, to understand what he did. The manager bristled. I don't owe him anything. Bruce's voice remained gentle, which made it more devastating. You don't owe me kindness, he said, but you do owe yourself the truth. The owner looked overwhelmed. The cafe wasn't built for truth, it was built for comfort. And then, in a moment nobody expected, the manager's voice cracked. Not fully, just enough. You don't know what it's like, he muttered. Bruce's eyes narrowed slightly. Tell me. The manager's hands clenched, then released. His throat bobbed as he swallowed something bitter. You walk in, the manager said, voice low, and people look at you like you're already a problem, and then you want to pretend you're above it, like you're calm, like you're... He stopped, jaw tightening. Bruce waited, not pouncing on the weakness. The manager's eyes lifted, sharp with frustration. I grew up with nothing, he said. Nothing. My father used to come home and he'd take it out on us. And I promised myself I'd never be small again. Never. You hear me? His voice rose, then dropped. And when I got this job, people listened to me. They did what I said. I mattered. Bruce's face stayed still, but something softened behind his eyes. Not pity, understanding. And when you see someone you think the world will protect, Bruce said quietly, you want to push them down before they push you down? The manager stared. His breathing sped up. The words were too The owner shifted uncomfortably, as if this was getting too personal for a public business. Bruce kept going, voice low. The problem, he said, is you chose the wrong target. You chose people who were already carrying weight and you added yours to it. The manager's lips trembled, just slightly. Rage, shame, confusion all crowding his face. I don't. He started, then stopped as if he didn't know what he didn't. Bruce took a slow breath. 6 seconds, he said. That's all it took for you to feel helpless. 6 seconds for your body to learn what your heart refused to learn. The manager's eyes flashed. So what? You want me to apologize? Bruce didn't answer immediately. He stared at the cup, the thin ring of coffee around the porcelain, the small, ordinary reality of it. Then he looked up. No, he said, I want you to change. The owner shifted again. We can handle this internally. Bruce's gaze cut to him, calm but firm. No, he said. You handle it honestly. The owner swallowed, nodding. The manager's face tightened. Change how? He demanded, but the demand sounded more like fear. Bruce leaned forward slightly. His voice dropped into something almost intimate, like a secret shared with a man on the edge of collapse. Start with this, Bruce said. When someone walks into your space, don't ask what they are. Ask what they need. Not as a test, as a human habit. The manager's jaw clenched. His pride fought for air. And when you feel that old fear, Bruce continued, that voice that says, make them smaller, recognize it. That voice is not strength. It's the echo of someone who hurt you. The manager's eyes flickered. His nostrils flared. His shoulders shook once, barely visible. He looked like a man trying not to cry in public and hating himself for even being close. He started again, and this time the sound came out broken. Bruce waited. The manager's voice dropped to a whisper. I'm sorry. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished, but it wasn't even fully sincere yet. It was the first crack in a wall. Bruce nodded slowly. Good, he said. Now do something with it. The owner cleared his throat, eager to end it. We'll take care of this, he said, looking at the manager with a warning in his eyes. Go to the back. The manager hesitated. His eyes flicked to Bruce one more time. There was something in that look now that hadn't been there before. Not respect as worship, respect as recognition. He turned and walked away, posture stiff but different. The stiffness of someone carrying a new thought. Bruce finished his coffee in silence. The room slowly returned to movement. Conversations resumed, quieter, more thoughtful. People avoided looking directly at him, not because they disliked him, but because he had forced them to witness something uncomfortable. Before he left, the waitress approached again. Her voice was soft. Thank you, she said. Bruce looked up, surprised. She gestured subtly toward the back where the manager had disappeared. You could have ruined him, she said. Bruce nodded once. Ruining people is easy, he said quietly. It's building them back that takes discipline. Outside, the air was colder. The streetlights were beginning to glow. Bruce walked down the sidewalk without any entourage, just a man in a jacket and quiet shoes, disappearing into the city like smoke. But the story didn't disappear. It moved, like stories always do. It traveled first as whispers among the staff, then as retellings among customers who'd been there, then as a phone call to a friend who worked at a small local paper, then as a short item in a column about an incident at a cafe and a martial artist who refused to be humiliated. The details change with each telling. People always exaggerate what they don't understand. Some said the manager flew across the room. Some said Bruce never touched him. Some said it was a fight. Some said it was a lecture. But the core stayed the same, because the core wasn't about technique. It was about restraint. It was about a man who could have broken another man and chose instead to break a habit. Days later, the manager sat alone in the back office, the smell of old paper and stale cigarettes clinging to the walls. His arm was fine, but his mind wasn't. Every time he reached to turn a doorknob, he remembered the sudden helplessness of those 6 seconds. Not the pain, the shame. He started watching people differently, not with warmth at first, with suspicion of his own reflexes. A young Asian couple entered the cafe one afternoon, quiet, hands intertwined. The manager saw them and felt the old familiar irritation rise. The voice in his head began its usual chant. Not your place, not your kind, not... He stopped. His jaw clenched, his hand tightened around the counter edge. Then he remembered Bruce's eyes. Not angry, not pleading, just clear like a blade held still. He walked over. The couple stiffened immediately, expecting trouble. They were ready. Their shoulders rose, their faces tightened, their eyes prepared to be insulted. The manager swallowed. His voice came out strained. What can I get you? The couple blinked. The woman's eyes narrowed, waiting for the second part. The man's body stayed tense like a drawn bow. The manager forced himself to keep going. Coffee, tea, we have pastries. His words sounded clumsy, like a man learning a new language. The woman hesitated. Coffee, she said quietly. The manager nodded once. Okay. He turned and signaled the waitress. He didn't smile. He didn't suddenly become a saint, but he did something more difficult. He resisted his old self. Week after week, it continued. Each time the reflex returned. Each time, he fought it. Some days he failed in small ways, tone too sharp, patience too thin, eyes too hard. But then he would catch himself, correct, try again. Months later, he saw Bruce again by accident. A rainy evening, a street corner. People crossing under umbrellas like dark moving flowers. Bruce stood near a storefront, hands in his pockets, looking at something in the window. No drama, no spotlight, just Bruce. The manager hesitated on the sidewalk, heart pounding like he was about to step into a fight again. He approached slowly, rain tapping on his coat. Bruce turned, recognizing him instantly, not with surprise, but with calm acknowledgement, like he'd expected consequences to arrive someday. The manager cleared his throat. Hey, Bruce nodded once. Hello? The manager's voice shook. I wanted to tell you something. Bruce waited. The manager stared at the wet pavement, unable to hold eye contact for long. I was wrong, he said. Not just about you, about everything. Bruce said nothing. Silence can be kindness when someone needs room to speak. The manager continued, voice tight. I thought strength was making sure nobody could ever treat me like I was nothing again. And I did that by treating other people like they were nothing. His breath caught. Bruce's voice was soft. And what do you think strength is now? The manager swallowed. He looked up, rain on his eyelashes, face exposed. It's control, he said. It's choosing not to become the thing that hurt you. Bruce nodded slowly. Good. The manager's eyes squeezed shut for a second. I don't know if I can ever fix it, he whispered. What I did. Bruce's voice remained steady. You can undo, he said, but you can build every day. That's how legacy is made, not with one grand moment, with repeated small decisions. The manager exhaled, shaky. Why did you help me? He asked, voice raw. I didn't deserve it. Bruce's eyes held his. Because I didn't want you to pass your pain to someone else, he said. I've seen what happens when men do that. It becomes a family tradition, a neighborhood tradition, a country tradition. The manager nodded slowly, tears mixing with rain. Years passed. Bruce Lee's name became bigger than cafes, bigger than streets. His face became a symbol, his voice became a quote people repeated without understanding the cost behind it. He became legend, he became poster, he became myth. But the manager stayed a man, older now, gray in his hair, lines in his face deepened. He left that cafe eventually. He took a job in a different place, a quieter life. He didn't talk about the incident often, but it lived inside him like a scar you touch when you need to remember. One day, long after Bruce was gone, the manager, now just an older man in a coat, sat across from his teenage son at a kitchen table. The kitchen smelled of cheap coffee and dish soap. The son's shoulders were tense, eyes angry in that young way that believes anger is strength. The son spoke through clenched teeth. This guy at school, he keeps talking about me like I'm trash, like I don't matter. The older man listened, hands wrapped around his mug. He saw himself in his son's eyes, that old hunger to be respected, that old fear of being small. What are you going to do? The father asked. The son's jaw tightened. I'm going to make him regret it. The father stared at him. Silence stretched. Then the father spoke, voice low. I once tried that, he said. I once tried to make someone regret something, and it almost turned me into a monster. The son blinked. What happened? The father looked down at his mug, the coffee trembling slightly. He chose his words carefully, like a man handling glass. I met someone, he said. Someone who could have destroyed me in seconds. And instead he showed me that the strongest person in the room is the one who doesn't need to prove it by hurting someone. Weaker, the son's eyes narrowed. Who? The father's mouth tightened, emotion rising. Bruce Lee, he said. The son stared. Bruce Lee, like the Bruce Lee? The father nodded. Yes. The son leaned back, stunned. The father continued, voice steadier now. He taught me that dignity is not what people give you. It's what you refuse to surrender. And respect, real respect, is what you offer even when your ego is screaming. The son looked away, blinking fast, fighting his own emotions. So what am I supposed to do? Just let people disrespect me? The father shook his head. No, he said. You stand up. You speak clearly. You set boundaries, but you don't become cruel just to feel powerful. The son's face tightened. That sounds weak. The father leaned forward, eyes sharp. Weak is losing control, he said. Weak is letting someone else insult decide who you become. The son swallowed. The father's voice softened. You want to be feared, he said, or you want to be respected. The son hesitated. Because fear is quick, the father said. Fear is cheap. Respect is slow. Respect is built. The son stared at the table, breathing slow, thinking. That night, a decision was made quietly. Not a dramatic victory, not a viral moment. Just a boy choosing not to turn pain into poison. And that is how legacy actually moves. Not in headlines, not in posters, in kitchens, in conversations, in choices made when nobody is watching. Now, listen closely, because this part is for you. Who are you in this story? Are you the person walking into a room, just trying to be treated like you belong, and realizing someone has already decided you don't? Are you the person watching from a nearby table, feeling the discomfort, telling yourself it's none of your business because speaking up would cost you something? Or are you the manager, carrying old wounds, using authority, like armor, mistaking control for character, mistaking dominance for dignity? So when you win, what do you do with the win? Do you use it to humiliate someone and prove you were right? Or do you use it to teach, to build, to create a moment that changes not just the person in front of you, but the person they might become later? Because anyone can break someone's pride. Anyone, it takes no skill to shame someone when you have the upper hand. But building someone back up, especially someone who wronged you, that takes discipline, that takes courage, that takes a kind of strength most people never train. And the next time you feel that old urge, the urge to make someone smaller so you can feel bigger, remember the 6 seconds. Not the technique, the lesson, the borrowed power, the choice. The real victory isn't making someone kneel. The real victory is refusing to become the kind of person who needs someone else on their knees to feel tall.